Hello, my lovelies. Welcome back to True Talk Tuesday, where you get the real deal on real estate. Tonight, we're going to talk about 2025 and what it looked like. What were the questions? I have spent time on National Association of Realtors website compiling all kinds of stuff for you. As always, let me know that you're here in comments, especially tonight, because I am streaming from, you probably can see it, StreamYard. And I am dual casting right now. So I am streaming to both Facebook and YouTube. So it's super important for me right now to know that you guys, your comments are coming through. I'm a little bit afraid that Facebook is not showing me comments. So if that's the case, by all means, go to my YouTube page. I will have to put that in links on Facebook later. But tonight, we are going to go over that. Gail, if you're watching and you haven't popped in a comment yet for the Facebook side of things, send me a message and send me a text and let me know that you've put in yours, so that way I know if I'm getting my Facebook comments or not. All right. So tonight we are going to talk about 2025. Like we have once a month for the past couple of months, we have talked about numbers and we have talked about what is actually going on in Polk County, what's actually going on in Lakeland. Tonight, we're going to look at the national side of things. We're going to look at National Association of Realtors, what they have said this year and what people have asked for them to talk about this year. We're going to talk about all of that. By the way, these are not predictions. This is not what I think is going to happen in 2026. This is just what has happened, what has occurred over the 2025. Oh, I'm going to sneeze. Hold on. I'm going to try not to sneeze on camera. I have the worst sneeze in the world. I sound like a little mouse. All right. So we're going to talk about all of this. There might be a moment where I have to step away. And if I do, you're going to still hear me right now. But if I have to step away, you're going to see this little avatar right here. Isn't she cute? She's super cute. But we are going to talk about what were the questions, what were home sales like nationally, all that good jazz. All right. So let's get into this. All right. First of all, 2025 was difficult for me as an agent. It was difficult. It was one of the worst years that I've had. I think I closed three homes this year, and that's not something that I've done before, right? The year before, I think I got like 10, and I'm still a fairly new agent. So 10 was a great number, right? This year I closed 3. Not a great year, right? Why? What was happening in 2025? Well, there was a lot of things happening in 2025. One of the biggest things was that we see a bunch of things in the news and we see things as agents and it can look very chaotic. But what was actually happening was this year was a recalibration. Things had gotten very crazy during COVID. So this year was more of the market settling down, the market actually being what it should be, right? And that was hard because things were up in the air some days, and you might have a great month where you've got a bunch of buyers, but then all of a sudden something happens and they've gotten cold feet because now they're looking at interest rates going up, right? Or there might be waiting for the interest rates to go down. So this year was very, very chaotic, but it was for the best. It was something that needed to happen. You've heard me say it time and time again. We really needed the recalibration. All right. By the way, the data that I'm giving you came from National Association of Realtors. All right. So if you want to go and fact check me, you can go to National Association of Realtors and look through. They have plenty of information. It's always a wealth of information. feel free to go over there because they have great articles. I'll share them on my business page from time to time because some great articles have come up, and I'll share those. So all of this came from there. All right. So big question were about affordability. A lot of questions were about affordability, right? What kind of house can I afford? How much can I afford for the price that I need, right? And a lot of that boiled down to those little fluctuations in rates, right? And it also boiled down to fluctuations in property taxes and insurance. All of these little fluctuations kind of determined what kind of house you could afford, especially for first-time home buyers. First-time home buyers, they have been paying rent, right? And some of them are like, I've been paying $1,800 in rent. It's a lot, right? Yeah. The very first house I ever rented, $325 a month. $325 a month. God, I'm old. But so they were $1,800 a month, and they're like, I could possibly do $2,000, but don't know. That was an affordability thing. How much house can I afford for $2,000, right? And oftentimes to get to $2,000, that meant you were dealing with a house that's like $200,000. Gail, I see that you have said something, but it doesn't show me. It's not showing me your little sticker. I think it just shows me that you're there. Let me know and say something in like actual texting and not a sticker, and see if it'll show up for me. So oftentimes, in order to get that $2,000 payment that they could afford, you're looking at a house that's $200,000, $215,000. And for us locally, what that meant was it was either having to be a conventional loan or it was going to have to be cash, because something that low meant that it was a house that needed to be fixed up. There were some things that might need to be done, and it being sold for that low. And I know that sounds weird, that low, right? Because was it 10 years ago we could get a house, for all right, Gail's here and she's texting. All right, cool beans. It was, we could get a 3-bedroom, 2-bath for $110,000 10 years ago. Now, 3 bedrooms, 2 bath, and it being suitable, you're looking at $250,000, $300,000 in our area, right? Oh my goodness. Brianna, my daughter, is here. Brianna, yes, that definitely sounds like Gail's sticker, the cat with the heart on it. So here we couldn't really do much of anything for our first-time home buyers, and I think that's why I specialize in first-time home buyers. It was especially difficult this year for mine. So I think affordability, like National Association of Realtors is saying, affordability was key this year. What also mattered to people was that stability. Those that were buying homes, the first-time home buyers that were buying homes, by the way, we're going to talk about like the average age and stuff like that in a minute of a first-time home buyer. That statistic blew my mind. When we get to that, I was just like, what? And it's not going to be a surprise to any of y'all, but I guess it's just me still thinking it's 1980 or something. I don't know. But stability mattered. So a lot of the people that were taking the leap into home buying, it was because they were tired of rent prices going up. They were tired of being evicted from a house that they've been paying on simply because the owner of the home didn't pay on it, right? So they were looking for stability, and that meant that they needed to know how much they could afford. That's why that question is the most prevalent question this year, is how much could I afford? What they also were looking for was buyers learned payments mattered more than listing price. So for instance, unfortunately, this was one of the ones that died in last December on me, but that was flooding issues. remember we live in Florida and we had a hurricane season in 2024 that was just woo. So, but I had one that my first time home buyers, they were looking for that $2,000 a month payment range, right? And we get them this house, and we were told by their lenders stay around the 200 range. We were able to get them to a 215 house, and it was because, you know, the property taxes were cheaper, yada yada yada. There were certain things in place that would allow them to get that $2,000 payment. So buyers this year learned that if they were looking for a payment, what they really needed to know was just kind of a generalized number of what they could afford. And then that sometimes the houses that they like that are in that generalized number weren't going to work because of insurance and property taxes. So, Caitlin, what's up, Caitlin? You see this? We're you said you could do it. Calling you soon. I was doing my hair and I was like, oh, there is a lot of brown right there. And I was supposed to be born green. Okay. So Caitlin, I love you and I will be seeing you soon. All right. Buyers also, what was it? Even small rate shifts. This is what they also learned. Small rate shifts, meaning like we went from 6.7 to 6.6, right? That little bit of a decline meant more buying power. So that was another reason why a lot of my buyers got cold feet, because they saw that little switch and they're like, well, if it's decreasing, I'm just going to stay there. I'm just going to keep going, right? And that's why I keep telling everybody, we marry a house and we date the rate, right? Can you deal with that? And we're going to talk about that too. The fact that, is it right for you? That kind of thing. All right. All right, Caitlin, I got you. All right. Tell Brandon I'm going to make meatloaf with ketchup. What's up, Sarah? Sarah Stiegler, lender in the house. All right. So you got lending questions, put them in the comments because we got a lender in there right now. Sarah, I have figured out, by the way, how to have guests and make sure this is all live. So I'm looking at you. We're doing this. All right. We're doing this again. Just so that way you can get a little overview and wondering like what exactly, where are we going with this? Right here on screen. Look what I'm gonna do. Aren't you proud of me? You're so proud of me, right? This is what we're all talking about. You know, the 2025 was a year of calibration. It wasn't a crash. It's not a boom. Strategy and education mattered, right? That's what we're talking about. Right now, we're talking about the affordability part of everything. And the affordability part was mortgage rates hovered near 6%. Sarah, is that correct? Make sure. Fact check me. I'm pretty sure. Payment stability mattered, like I said, for a lot of people more than the price of the house. Remember, they learned that, yeah, I might be approved for 200, but I might be able to get into a 215 simply because of all the parameters of that. All right. And buyers gained clarity, not chaos. So this was big. This was a shift that I saw from 2024 to 2025. A lot of my buyers were very, very educated. They wanted to know what exactly they were getting into. They wanted to know about homestead exemption and all these things. And it's great because me as a teacher, I'm like, I'm eating this stuff up, right? Like, let me show you. I love that kind of crap. So, hey, Tiffany, broker. She's a broker, by the way. So not my broker, but Tiffany's the Mermazing Realtor, and I love her to death. By the way, Tiffany doesn't know this about what I'm about to tell her and say it live. But when I first came into real estate, I was very worried because of my hair. I did not know how I was going to be received. And Tiffany was one of the first professional realtors that I came across that had wild hair and had a nose ring and was fully herself. And I felt confident that I could do this because she was doing this. So Tiffany, you didn't know, but I was actually looking at you going, okay, 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 I got this. I don't have to change anything about myself. So thank you, Tiffany. I love you too. All right. So many buyers who felt locked out in prior years, by the way, they actually moved into the realm of possibility because of this education, right? Because they were learning that there were differences in property taxes. They were learning that insurance could be shopped for, right? They learned all the things that could save them money. They researched grants, right? They found out about CRA funds in the cities. They talked to their lenders and said, hey, look, here's my situation. This is what I want. So they moved because of that education from, oh, I don't think this is possible, into, I actually have a game plan now. And that's one of the things that I have been saying and over and over and over again. You can go check my Facebook. Anytime you see a real estate post for me, I tell you, like, call me. Let's get you on a path. Let's get you on a game plan, because it is possible. The negativity of, well, I can't afford it because, this, that, and the other. Certain situations, that is 100% correct. And I've said that on a live before. For certain people, renting is the best option. But some people think renting is their best option when, in fact, they can own their own home. So the education of this year was huge in moving buyers over to actually knowing that they could buy a home, right? Sarah, girl, I love your hair. I'm in need of a change of mine. I think if I changed the green in my hair, I think my granddaughter would disown me. I'm just going to say that right now. So it's green forever. First-time buyers still struggled, but they were educating, right? The struggle that came with first-time buyers, really, for what I recognized and from what National Association of Realtors said, is that first-time home buyers are still struggling with down payment. Sarah and I have talked online about before down payment assistance and what does that look like, and how to qualify for those things. Most first-time home buyers are needing down payment assistance. If you are in that situation, talk to your lender. You may qualify for a lot of different things that you don't know about, right? And yes, Sarah and I have talked about before how the fact is that it's not free money, right? It's not free money, but it gets you into a house. And if you could afford the payment, that's what buyers right now are looking at. Can I afford that payment for the house that I want? All right. I'm looking through my notes. I'm trying to make this fast for you because I know we're not going to get bogged down. Prepared buyers moved when the numbers made sense. That's something that we really need to talk about. It wasn't about whether or not it was the best interest rate. It wasn't about whether or not it was the best location. What it really was about was, did it make sense for these buyers, right? One of my buyers this year, they work for Disney, right? So we had to find them something close to Disney, and we had to find it for a certain amount of money. It was like finding a needle in a haystack because we had to be within 30 minutes of the Disney casting office. That is not a big area considering traffic, right? So when we did find them something, it was something that they were going to have to put a little bit of work into, right? But they were willing to do that because the numbers made sense, right? The situation made sense. It was the right kind of house in the right area for them. So they jumped on it. And that's what buyers this year did a lot of. Did it make sense financially for them, right? Could they afford that house right now? Yes. Then despite it being, 6% interest rate and family members going, wait until it drops down to 5. Y'all, I bought my house in 2002, 2001, 2002. because my son was like 8 months old. 2002. And my interest rate then was 8%. I recently refinanced this house and we got a lower interest rate, right? Took us a long time. It took us a big time, but it made sense for us to do it at that time. And a lot of the buyers were that way. If the numbers were right, the location was right, the situation was right, buyers were moving, right? So the other side of things was selling. What about houses selling? Because a lot of people heard, well, houses are just sitting on the market. Yes and no. That's a yes and no. And I can tell you from firsthand, yes and no. If the house was priced correctly, if it had curb appeal, if it wasn't like 500 different colors of paint inside, they were moving fast. They would move quickly, right? But that meant that sellers had to listen to their realtor. And that doesn't always happen. That doesn't always happen. I know other agents had to have multiple conversations about pricing with their sellers because the house would sit on the market. Right now, currently, I believe we're in 47 days. 47 days. State-wise, there we go. State-wise, we are in, let's see, median time list to sell 93 days. 93 days. And a year ago, we're up 82 days from a year ago. So yeah, this was a hard year for sellers, right? But they had to step up their game. The houses that stepped up their game, even if they were $600,000 homes that could have sold for, $1 million, they had to step up their game. Houses that are manufactured homes, right? You had to make sure that you had curb appeal. You had landscaping, right? It wasn't 1990s electric blue carpet like is in my house right now. I hate my carpet. But you had to really make sure that when you sold the house, it was on point. All right. So pricing and presentation mattered big this year. Strategy actually beat urgency. What does that mean? A lot of times buyers will be like, sellers will be, I'm very motivated to sell. And they'll cut the price. And they can cut the price all they want. But what actually the buyers for that home were looking for was, could you cover my closing costs, right? I don't want to have to put new carpet in out of pocket. Can you give me a credit? So they were looking for those type of things, right? The buyers were looking for those things. So if a seller listed their house at market value, if the seller was listing their house at market value and could include closing costs, could include whatever credit they needed for repairs, those houses were selling, right? They had a good strategy about them. So yes, homes did sell, all right? Overpriced homes, they sat on the market. Overpriced homes, they were just, but well-priced homes, they were definitely moving. You got to move it. Okay, I'm sorry. That will happen. If it's a song title, song lyric, it's just gonna be there, right? Somebody said earlier, turn the beat around, and all of a sudden I was like, turn the beat around. Got to keep it. Yeah, so we're gonna move on. All right, sorry about that. Who was buying in 2025? This is the statistic that I told you was gonna be like, right? All right, first-time buyers made up about 21% of the market. 21% of the market, and that is actually historically low, according to NAR. Hey, Trish. Your average first-time home buyer, you know how old they were? This was crazy to me. Take a guess. Somebody in comments, tell me Just guess. How old do you think your average first-time home buyer was? Average first-time home buyer. Sorry, I'm getting the tissue for my nose. I had to bring my plants in, and sometimes my plants will kick up my allergies. All right, I don't see any guesses. Come on. 20, 25, 30. What'd you think? What do you think your average first-time home buyer is? Everybody's like, no, I ain't guessing. Not going to do it. Your average age of a first-time home buyer, they were around their 40s. 40s. Oh, all of a sudden I got a bunch of them. All right, Gail, you were the closest, 30 to 40. Sarah, 19? Did you have a buyer this year that was 19? I need to know this. 33, Tiffany, 22. Okay, Sarah was like 22. She was just laughing. just joking. Yeah. So 40. Trish, you were the closest. They were in their 40s. That was wild to me. Now, guess how old, first time buyers are in their 40s. Guess how old repeat buyers were? Repeat buyers. I know you guys are like, I get the lag on comments. I know, I understand. Repeat buyers, though, average age was in their 60s. And I can tell you, besides the first-time home buyers, most of my first-time home buyers were in their late 20s, early 30s. And yeah, 60s to 70s, Gail. Yep, they were in their 60s. So equity played a major role in who could move into their second home, right? So if you had a large amount of equity in the first home that you bought, then you were able to have that down payment in order to buy the next home, right? Or either make sure that you had enough money to keep the same payment, right? That happened a lot. Was, okay, I'm going to buy another home, but I want to make sure that I keep a payment around this type. So, yeah. This explained why the market felt uneven a lot of times, because of the fact that, like, first-time home buyers don't have the equity, right? They don't have a hidden savings account that they can tap from in order to buy a second house or, buy their first house. But first, the buyers that already had a home, they could move. So that's what we were looking at. We were looking at those that were buying a second home. They were in their 60s, right? And people of that age, they're discerning, right? They've got a lot of questions. They've lived through life, right? Let's see, my mom, I am 49, or I'll be 49 soon. Right now, I'm now 49. But I'll be 49 soon. So that means my mom is 65, 66, something like that. And my mom's lived through some life, right? So my mom, if she was to buy a home, she'd be asking a lot of questions. But she would have had the equity in the first home to be able to do that, to actually move. This is not a lesson of, I don't want people to say, oh, they're 40, so of course I'm in my 30s, I can't buy a home now. Incorrect. All right. This is not, you are not at the right moment. It's just that this was a recalibration year. So a lot of younger people were being told by older members of their family, hold, don't move. And in previous years, that was probably great advice. They would tell them, wait for the rate. Now we're seeing where you don't need to be waiting for the rate, right? If you've got a house and the situation works for you, make the move. Right? National median price hovered around 410,000. So the average house nationally was about 410. Here locally, I believe we were, let's see, Median price in the state of Florida was $330,150. All right. So we're a little bit under national. Buyers had more breathing room, and what this meant was because houses were sitting longer, buyers had the opportunity to negotiate things that they might not have been able to negotiate before, right? We've talked about this is a neutral market. This isn't a buyer's market. This isn't a seller's market. But buyers were finding agents like myself who would go, okay, let's go see the house that's been sitting on the market for 200 days, right? Because you need closing costs. And these people are more than likely going to pay your closing costs. So let's go look at that home, right? That's what they were finding out, is that they really were able to take, and with the guidance of a good real estate agent, they were able to get the deals that they wanted to get. So buyers had more breathing room to be able to do that. Fear-based decisions hurt people. There was a lot of people that I had talked to, a lot of buyers whose older relatives, caring and trying to help them, right? But they're not in real estate professionally, right? They're not studying these numbers on a weekly, daily, monthly, yearly basis, right? They're not looking into it and looking at the patterns of anything, right? But they were doing what they felt was right with their younger family members and telling them, hey, look, you want to wait until the rate drops. The rates are too high right now, right? Or, oh, we're going to go through a crash soon and all the houses are going to, be basement prices. Just wait for that. Hold that. This is a different market. This is a different time period. It's not going to work that way. And there's a lot of economists that say that. It's not just me talking out of the side of my mouth. It's me listening to head economists, and head economists are saying, we're not going to see a 2008, 2009 housing market crash. If we did, it would be many, many years down the line, right? There are things that are negatively impacting the housing market. Yes. Newsflash, that's every year. Every year there is something that's negatively affecting the housing market, right? Whether that is there's a boom and now all the prices of the house have skyrocketed, right? Or the fact that, oh, well, now the houses are staying on the market for so long, but it's 6% interest rate. I'm waiting for 4%. People that can offer you 4% are more than likely new construction. And I would love for you just to take a quick Google at some of the head new construction and things that they're getting in trouble with. Right now, there is a major construction company getting in trouble for falsely giving information to their buyers. They would give their buyers this payment. Here, look, it's a low payment. You can afford it. With failing to tell the buyers, oh, we used the insurance and, the property taxes before the building actually was there. We just used the property taxes and insurance from it being a piece of flat land to come up with your payment for this year. Next year, now when you get your insurance reevaluated, because now you have put, this property is now $350,000, the property appraiser is going to see that. Property appraiser is going to go, oh, it's no longer a $15,000 piece of land. It's a $350,000 home. So now we have to assign property taxes that way. And guess what happened? Those buyers of new construction who had great rates, now they have payments they can't afford. Right? So the thing was that they were learning. A lot of buyers were learning these things this year. So I think that's great. I think we've learned a lot in 2025. We learned that guidance mattered. You needed a real estate agent. And 84%. I did not write that statistic down. Tiffany, did you see the statistic? If you did, let me know. Sarah, if you did, let me know. I believe it was 84% of people who bought or sold a home this year used a real estate agent. And of that 84%, I believe 72% said that they would recommend their agent and use the agent again. So that was pretty good. Informed decisions helped people, right? So again, education, big. Reality check though of all of this, there is no perfect market. No perfect market. There is only one right move for the right person at the right time. All right. And that move is solely yours to come up with. If you go, you know what, I want to buy a house. Matter of fact, my nephew is looking, right? My nephew is looking, and we've got a time frame. But we are also understanding that if this house comes up that is just absolutely perfect for him, we're going to need to jump on it. That's the way it is. So they've learned it depends. It depends on your situation, right? Marshall is in. I love when Marshall's in, by the way. Is anyone comprehending that more people cannot afford a $2,500 a month house payment, and it's impossible to save 50 grand for a down payment? It wouldn't matter what the home costs. I just saw Tampa is #1 in the nation for foreclosures. Someone needs to look at wages. And I agree with that, Marshall. I do agree that we do need to look at wages versus home costs. I was just watching a video about the, the words just went, not listening, not happening. Basic wage. I can't think of the name of it. All of a sudden, my brain was like, no, you're not going to get that word. But basically, we have not had our wages increased in like the last 15 years. And if we look at housing prices back then compared to now, we can't, it's not matching, right? It's not matching. So we definitely need to look at it. But I agree with you that minimum wage. Thank you, Gail. I was like, I can't think of the name. Yeah, minimum wage. Minimum wage has not gone up in quite a long time. And that's a problem because everything else has. So when we talk about, do we need to raise minimum wage? We can talk about, let's lower the cost of things. That's not going to happen. I don't know of any, I just don't see that happening, right? I don't see the cost of things getting lower. Historically, you look at it year after year after year, things have gotten more expensive, right? So I don't see them getting lower, but I do agree with you, Marshall. We absolutely do need to increase minimum wage so that way more people can afford houses, right? I know that there are communities that are trying to put in some type of first, down payment assistance for people, scholarships to kind of do that kind of thing. So I don't know the answer to that. I wish I had an answer for that. I unfortunately don't have the greatest, I'm trying to put this in like the most politically correct way of saying it. Those that know me know that this is going to be a hard one for me. So I don't think that the powers that be right now have the best interest in mind of people that don't make 6 figures a year. They just don't. We can't even get, healthcare. Healthcare. And a lot of Americans are sick, and that causes problems with whether or not you can afford a house, even whether you can afford rent, right? There are a lot of people living in, that was another thing that we saw in 2025, multi-generational homes. That spiked. Why? Yes, there is a correlation. I'm not going to say a causation. I'm not going to say this is the cause, but there's a correlation between not being able to afford things on your basic income by yourself, right? So now you have to have a bunch of family living together or roommates living together so you guys can just afford to live. That's another conversation entirely. But yes, Marshall, I agree with you. National data set the stage so we understand that what was happening here locally. All of the agents that I know, they were hustling. They were trying, man. They were trying to make things happen for people. They were trying to find any and everything that would work in order to get people in homes. Some agents, I will say, yeah, that's just a paycheck to them, right? They're just there to make the paycheck. And I'm not gonna say that's wrong or right. That's just the way they do things. For agents like myself, it was this thing where we felt like we needed to make sure you had that stability. Because things in this world are crazy, we wanted you to have that home, to have that stability in, right? So there was a lot of that. All right, we're coming to an end now. All right. Big takeaway picture. Big takeaway picture of this. Let's put that back on the thing. All right. So we said market activity, one, there was 4.5 million homes sold nationwide. That's a lot. So there was activity on the market. Homes still sold with correct pricing. We talked about that. We talked about how preparation, that was the key to making things happen, and strategy. Who was buying? 21% of the market was first-time home buyers. The average first-time home buyer's age was 40. And repeat buyers had leveraged their equity in order to buy another home. Key takeaways are homes sold across Central Florida. Yes, that's true. We did sell homes still. Prices leveled out, and informed decisions beat fear. All right. And I will also put this guy back up here so you can see that this matched what Florida did. All right. Florida, we see the same numbers that nationally, not exactly the same, but same trend, I'll say. All right. If you're thinking about buying or selling this year, my advice is right now, go ahead and get with a real estate agent. Talk about what you want to do. It doesn't matter that you're not ready until next December, right? That's okay. What we are here for is so that way we can get you on the right path that makes sense for you, because that's what 2025 really showed us, was that people, if it made sense for your personal life, that's when we need to make things happen. All right. So if you're out there thinking about buying or selling, let's talk about it. Let's see what we need to do. If you're in one of these situations where you can't afford the down payment, all right, cool. Let's look at creative ways to get that for you, right? Let's find you a lender that knows how to find you a down payment assistance. Let's get that stuff done, right? If you don't want to talk to a realtor at first, you're a little worried, go to Fannie Mae. Go to the Fannie Mae website. There's courses, there's first-time homebuyer courses on there that you can go and you can get certified in first-time home buying, right? Like that way, when you go to get like government assisted down payment, most of the time they'll make you take these courses, right? You have to have a certification. So go ahead and do that. What's it going to hurt? What's it going to hurt? It's not going to hurt anything. Just go educate yourself, right? So that's my biggest thing, is go educate yourself. A conversation can save months and thousands of dollars, right? It can save months of stress and thousands of dollars if you just have the conversations. It's going to be a tough conversation, and I get it. A lot of people don't want to share, you know what? My credit isn't that great. Okay. I've been there, right? I've been there. I get it. I know what that's like, right? My credit was destroyed after my divorce when I was in my 20s. It took me forever. So I get it. I get what you're going through. Let's figure this out, though. If that's something that is a big plan, a big goal for you, let's get you there. Let's figure out how we need to do it. Put you in the front of the people that you need to be in front of to get the help that you need, right? Use 2025 as information and not intimidation. Don't look at 2025 and go, wow, that was I heard a lot of bad things. No, you learned some things. Let's rewrite how your brain sees things. in a big hole, right? Okay. Every single time your brain gives you something negative, I want you to say, okay, but I learned. And then tell it what it learned. That was 2025. 2025 was definitely a recalibration year. We kind of got where we needed to get. So 2026, everybody that I have heard, they're like 2026 is going to be a great year for buyers. So we're gonna hold them to that. All right. What was the other thing? Schedule a one-on-one with me. Let's talk about numbers and all that good jazz, so that way we can get you there. I've already said all that. Other than that, those were the numbers, y'all. It was a year of recalibration. That's all we're going to do. It was a year of recalibration. We're stepping into 2026 though with more education, right? We're stepping into 2026 knowing what we need to do, right? That's what we're doing. So, as always, if you've got a question, you are more than welcome to put a comment on this video after it goes up. You know, I was live right now. You might be watching it later and I'm not live. I will still answer your comments. All right. If you're not comfortable in putting a comment in publicly, you can DM me. Also, if you look at the description of this video, you will see a couple of different links in the description of this video. And one of them is my digital business card that will give you my contact information. It'll also give you all my social media. So that way you can follow me and see all the weird stuff that I do. My Facebook feed today featured Bigfoot booty cheeks. So feel free to follow me. All right. Matter of fact, here we go. Wait a minute. I learned something. Like and follow. Aren't you proud of me? I've been working for months trying to figure this stuff out. All right. So, my lovelies, until next week, I want you to be happy. I want you to be safe. And remember that I love you. Because if people can hate for no reason, I can love you for no reason. All right, my lovely? All right, my lovely. See you next time.